Hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining us for our first webinar for the 2024 new year. We're very happy to have you, and today we will kick off the year with a fairly unique topic. We will focus on colorants for special applications, and we'll get a little bit more into that in a few minutes. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. This is going to be recorded, and all of those that are in attendance will receive the link to the recording as well as the PDF of the presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and I'll take care of those at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to go off screen and then we'll get started. So as far as special applications, one of the questions is, what is a special application? And I like to categorize it by saying it's sort of the catch-all for anything that doesn't fit neatly into the coatings, plastic or ink applications that are the more traditional application areas that use colorants. So again, it's a catch-all bucket that does contain a lot of different and varied application areas. So as far as special applications, because it's such a varied application area, it is truly all about color. Color will attract your customers. It helps to visualize the brand properties and the values. It also helps to differentiate your brand from the competition. And color itself generates a lot of emotions with the ultimate buyer in there. So, and thing to keep in mind is that the everybody's different, so they're going to respond differently to the color. And so these are more generalizations with respect to that. So in each color space, there are some emotions that are generated by that color. So, for example, when you take a look at yellow, you see one emotion could be optimism, clarity, or warmth. And you take a look at some of the brand icons that you see that do use yellow in their branding. You can kind of get some of those same emotions from the brand by using that yellow color. Another area, if we take a look at blue, blue tends to elicit a sort of a trust, dependability, and a strength of that particular product or company. So if you take a look at some of those, you see HP is in there, Facebook, Lowe's, and Dell. They all generate that trust aspect of the brand through their color. So color itself and color and marketing go hand in hand. And many of you may have worked with your own color marketing group and to be able to develop the colors that are needed for your ultimate products. And there's been surveys over the years that tell us a lot about the role that color plays in terms of marketing. This particular one came from 2014, which says that 84% say color is the primary reason they buy a particular product. But the interesting part is they'd make that decision within 90 seconds of the initial viewing in there. So it's really important to catch the attention of the ultimate buyer right away, so that they pick your product over your competition's product from the shelf or from the car lot or wherever that ultimate product is. And in this case, special applications, it could be anything in there. And then that 90 percent of that assessment is truly based on just the color. So the decision is made quick. It's made basically on the color itself. So we want to be able to develop the color to be able to catch those buyers right away. In terms of special applications, as we mentioned, it's the catch-all, and there are it's a wide variety of areas where color is that falls in that same bucket. And some of the examples are textiles, detergents, and agricultural, stationery, some latex balloons, of course, even some faux leather finishes are in this general bucket. So when I was preparing for this webinar, I did have a good time kind of going through and taking a look at some of these special applications and looking up some of the videos on how these things are made. And I'll have to admit that I'm a sucker for watching how these things are made. It just amazes me how these various products are put in there. So I'm not going to show them to you, but they'll be included in the information so that you can look at them if you'd like to. But I've included, how paper is made and colored pencils, erasers, balloons, crayons, and how seeds are colored and how to make the faux leather types of things. So you might enjoy those as well. So for Sudarshan, we have several categories within our special application bucket. We have the home care and personal care area, seed treatment, or the agricultural and stationery. So we'll go over some of these areas and see where pigment and coloration happens for each of these areas. So the product range with respect to Sudarshan for these areas, one area, of course, is the actual pigment powder itself. Our Sudacolor, Sudaperm, and Sudafast all provide the coloration that's required for each of these areas. On the special effect area, we have our line of mica effect pigments that can be applied in each of these areas as well. We also have lines for pigment preparations. These are typically more regional in nature, but we do have a few new lines that we've developed fairly recently that can lend the color it need in certain areas across the regions. Home care and personal care, we do split these in two categories where the personal care is part of our cosmetic business. They require certain certifications and additional testing to be able to go into those areas. And so we have a separate business for that one. So if you do have a need in those areas, just let us know and we can make that connection happen. But with respect to home care products like detergents and dishwashing liquids and other industrial cleaners, we have the products that fit those needs as well. So as far as soap and detergents, we have pigments that fit the full space of color in these areas. And so I've listed some of the Sudarshan product color indexes as well as the actual products themselves that would be good fits for these color spaces for this type of an application area. Key color spaces, of course, is a yellow, where we see a lot of use in the pigment yellow 1, pigment yellow 74, and yellow 3. Orange, of course, a big one is the orange 34, and 36 can be of value as well. Red space, we see the red 3 and the red 112. And then the blue, we see the CPC blues, the 15-1 and the 15-3. And of course, in the green space is the green 7. In the agricultural area, there are a number of areas that coloration is being used and plays an important role. In seed coatings, of course, the seeds are coated with different colors, and that's done for a couple of very specific reasons. It's for seed identification, to be able to make sure that you have the right seeds in the right bin, to be able to plant them accordingly. There's also some more technical and performance aspect of it, especially when you include the mica effect pigments in there. The mica effect pigments add some additional slip when it comes to the seed application. The mica tends to remove the bridging effect that you might get in a hopper, so that the performance of and productivity of the seed application is improved through that slippery surface. Active ingredients that are used in the agricultural area also have some color to them. For example, herbicides and pesticides can also have color to them. Again, primarily these are for brand identification or product identification so that they don't get mixed up. Fertilizers also can contain some additional colors as well. So why do people apply seed coatings? So, I already answered some of those, but the coating themselves, a lot of times they're in the formulation of the coating, there are items in there to help in the germination and the protection of the physical seed. I mentioned the identification, enhanced appearance, and enhanced seed application. So I already mentioned those. Excuse me. Some of the most popular shades, we see some orange that are used for sugar beets or corn. Red can also be used for corn. Blue and green for vegetables. Green sometimes are used for beans and melons. But probably some of the more interesting is how much is used in an application. So I found this fascinating, where if you're using a powdered pigment, typically it's 10 to 50 grams of the colorant per 100 kilograms of the actual seed. If you're using a liquid, something like 2 kilograms of that pigment preparation per 100 kilograms of seed. And then mica can be added on top of either the powder or the liquid for additional color and performance. So I have some examples of the seeds. So in this example, this just shows how the seeds are colored. This is a smaller laboratory type of an operation, but this also can be expanded into a larger facility as well. So the seeds are put in, the appropriate amount of colorant is added to that one, and they are either tumbled or mixed to be able to distribute the seed, distribute the colorant over the seed and have the seeds fully covered by the colorant. So some of the examples of the types of pigments that are used for agricultural, they span the full color palette, depending on the need and the the specific color need and application area. But we see anything from the red 112, 48-2, And blues, of course, in the 15 and the 15-3, greens we talked about earlier. Even violet 23 is used in there. So we can see a lot of different colors that are available to the agricultural industry to be able to identify the pigments themselves. So I talked about micas. So I prepared a few examples of what they actually look like with and without the mica. So on the right-hand side is the seed colored with a pigment red 112 preparation solely at a 0.5% of a loading on that one, and the photo to the left of that is with an additional 1% of a silver mica, a standard 10 to 60 micron silver mica on the on top of the organic red colorant, and you can see how the mica adds sort of a nice sheen to the seed itself, and in some cases it just gives it a very much more enhanced visual to the seed itself, giving it a sort of a more luxurious looking seed, so that the supplier can potentially charge some more money. But it also has that performance aspect of it, where it helps with the flow of the seeds through the hoppers and distribution machinery used through the for the actual seed planting. And if we shift over to the pigment blue 15-3, same formulation that we saw in the earlier slide. On the right hand side is just the organic colorant, and on the left hand side is the blue with the silver mica on top. And here you see obviously a bigger difference in terms of its color, a little softer in terms of the color with a nice sheen. Again, you get that performance enhancement. And then lastly, green, same idea here. And again, a lot of times the micas are used more for the performance aspect of it. And really that goes with the shape of the seed itself. So these in particular, they're round, they're going to move through the system, through the machinery fairly easily, but consider a seed that's more a needle-like or long and thin. Those are going to bridge a lot easier. So that's where the mica comes in handy to be able to improve that performance. Stationary. So there's a lot of areas that are in the general stationary application area. Some examples that I brought here are inks for writing or stamping. In the paint area, of course, oil paints. There's a lot of artist colors out there that need pigmentation for that. Acrylic paints, watercolors, a lot of DIY type of application areas that have unique needs for a lot of color, a lot of varied color, and unique color. Chalks, think sidewalk chalk. Of course, crayons is a huge area for color. And then, another area is certainly candles is a big area. Pencils, all kinds of colored pencils, and actually the lead inside the colored pencil, as well as the coating on the outside of the pencil, does require color. I found this fascinating. It's not very technical in nature, but I didn't realize that there were so many different types of pens that are out there, but there are, and each of those do require color in some form. Some of those are going to be using pigments. Some are going to require a pigment dispersion, and others maybe even a solvent dye to be able to generate the proper color for that application area. So from a stationary application perspective, I wanted to give you a feel for some of the application areas and the types of colorant form that's required for that one, and then some other benefits and or requirements for that particular product for that application. I highlighted in yellow the areas that Sudarshan participates in, so pigment preparations, which I mentioned earlier. Of course, our pigment, powder pigment is our main portfolio for that one. And then the soluble dyes are an area that are traditionally directed towards plastic applications, but do find a home in these permanent marker ink areas. Paper is something that we see and use every day, and it does take a lot of colorant to get it where it needs to be, and it's a very interesting area to be able to provide that color. So obviously you have your white paper and color paper, and it's a kind of surprising to know that even your white paper does have some coloring in it. A lot of times they will use a violet or a blue to make it brighter and whiter in there. So the blue undertones tend to make it visually brighter and lighter. And of course, the colored paper that we all knew and love and during our school days is heavily colored as well. So depending on the application for that particular paper, sometimes pigment dispersions will be used, other times dyes are acceptable. So it really comes down to what kind of color durability that's required for that particular paper. If you need highlight fastness, then the pigment is going to be better than the dye. Also, in terms of the friendliness, in terms for manufacturing, using dyes is less eco-friendly than pigment dispersions because there's going to be less load on your wastewater treatment facility. So, just a few considerations to use when deciding on how to color your paper. This was an interesting information that I was able to pull of a colored paper that's colored with a pigment yellow 83. So your yellow construction paper would potentially look like this in there. So the top left corner is a 100 magnification of the paper itself. So you really can't see anything, but you do see the cellulosic mesh that is generated when you prepare the paper itself. The photo on the right is 3000 magnification, and you begin to see that the yellow 83 pigment particle in the webbing itself. And then the bottom photo is a 10,000 micron or 10,000 magnification, and there you can actually see that the physical pigment yellow 83 particle inside the paper. So it doesn't take a whole lot to color, but it's important to be able to have those appropriate colors for your color paper. Textile is a big business for color in there, especially when the pattern that you want on your textile is intricate, like you see here in the slide. These are typically printed to be able to get that very precise pattern and color aspect of it. in there. So Sudarshan has a broad line of pigments that are designed to work with textile inks in the digital area. There's some very specific needs of the pigment itself, and as it relates to the 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 ink formulation. So you need to be able to achieve and maintain a very low viscosity for proper ink drop placement. A small particle size is desirable to be able to get a very precise color. Certainly, compatibility with the various resins that are used is key. Needs to have good filterability to be able to be a good system that has that good printability as well. And of course, stability is something that is of key importance to be able to maintain those the properties over the lifetime of that ink. So just a few some of the products that we have available for digital ink in the textile area. In the Pigment Red 122 area, we have a couple of products that we have in there. One is is more blue than the other. These are printed on a cotton fabric. And one of the other things that we are proud of at Sudarshan is to be able to help our customers match up the best type of dispersant for the actual pigment itself. And in some cases, the same dispersant can be used, but in other cases, there might be a more specific dispersant to be used. So even though we're talking about two Pigment Red 122s here, the various dispersants that we've tested, in one case, one from BSF, worked with both of them very well. But when we went to take a look at Tego or BIC materials, we did see something that was more unique from BIC for the 5306D or from Tego, and then a unique one from BIC for the 5308. So we have that data. We can assist all of you with helping to match the best dispersant for the actual pigment product. In the blue space, the 15.3, we have a 5302, and again, we have identified two types of pigment dispersions that work very well, and both of these are from BIC. Violet 19 space, we have the Pigment or Sudorjet Red 5321D. And again, two different dispersants that worked very well for this particular area. This Pigment Violet 19 is the gamma crystal, so it's going to be a little bit more, we'll have the yellowish shade and not the blue shade of the beta. Yellow 74, our product is a Sudajet Yellow 5313D. Again, a couple of dispersions that work very, very well with this product. This gives you a nice greenish shade yellow. It also has very high tinting strength as well. Pigment Green 7, a very useful tool in digital printing for textiles. We have a couple of products here, the Sudafast 2727C and 2730K. Both work very well with the Disperbic 190 from BIC. You'll notice here, though, in this particular case, the 2727C is more for the coatings area, was developed for the coatings area. while the 2730K was developed for the plastics area. But they both work very well in the digital ink area as well. So my job, I've always said this, and you probably heard me say it many times on these webinars, is my job is to make sure that you have the right product for your application, not necessarily where it was originally developed for. So you can see in this case there's some cross application area in this particular color index. And that's also true in other color indexes as well. Orange 34 is the Sudacolor Orange 211D. Again, a couple of dispersions that work very well. This is a nice pigment that provides some very good rheological properties. It's also a little to the transparent side and gives a nice red shade orange to your palette. So with that, I'd like to conclude it and be able to answer any of your questions. But before I do that, I'd like to be able to thank our North American team. You can reach out to any one of us if you have any questions or needs. We'll be happy to help. So at this point, I'd like to talk about what's next. Next month, our webinar will take a look at what's new in azochemistry. So that will be held in February on the 27th and it's always the last Tuesday of the month. And then looking ahead, in March, we will focus on high performance pigments and what they can do for you. So take a look at that one in March. And with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions that you might have. I'll come back on, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box.